Jerry Miller, who was part of this. And so I ended up going and picking her up. The day before, the afternoon before this was to occur, we had a place to interview her, and there was a two-way mirror. Everything was going to be recorded, audio, video. And I get a package in from the Armed Forces Courier. I opened it and I kind of looked through it, but I didn't really read everything. The day of her meeting, I went out, just before I went out to pick her up to bring her to the gate, because she had to be cleared in, I read it. I went through the document, and I said, holy cow, this is a presidential briefing document. But the counterintelligence officer in me says, I wonder how much of this is real. So anyway, she comes in, and I give her the spiel. I said, you can read this, you can't take notes, you can't photograph it. So she reads it, and she asked me, how long do I have? I said, you can read it a couple different times. So she took her probably 35, 40 minutes. She read everything several times. I took it back, I put it back in the desk, I packaged it up, I sent it back to headquarters, and that's my beginning of using her as a source of information. Now, I find out later that they were going to do this operation against her, and it was being handled at headquarters, not me. I was just a field agent handling what they asked me to handle. I wasn't actually the case agent. That was being done in headquarters. She was to do a documentary for HBO on UFOs. And she had information that she had obtained from an Air Force officer who worked at the Pentagon. My job was to get the name of that officer so we could run a case against him, because he disclosed classified information to her. So that's why I handled Linda, and she was a tough. I was totally unsuccessful. I never got anything from her. She was very smart. She would give me other information, but names, I never get that from her.
Yeah, Linda's tenacious, to say the least.
Yeah, that's a good word for her.
Yeah. Okay.
But getting back to it, the information that she was reading,
you don't know.
I actually only had access to it for that short period of time, because I had to send it back. I read it. I read the document. I read the same thing she read. And I thought it was amazing what they were giving her. But I thought, it can't be real. I mean, some of it probably is. Now, over the years, I've learned that some of that is real, and then some of it isn't.
So what have you created that isn't real?
We mean during my time in it, was I didn't create anything.
No material?
No, I would not be allowed to do that.
No, so but what information did you pass on?
Okay.
That was given to you that you know for a fact wasn't real, that people tell us.
Oh, okay, yeah. There was an incident involving a civilian that saw something. It was an experimental craft. It was the first prototype of the Aurora, which was being developed at the same time that the F-117 was at the same time period. This guy saw this, and I had to give him information on a UFO. I made up the story about a UFO that occurred, a sighting occurred at the same time he saw this real craft. So everything I gave him about that UFO was false. Everything. It came down from headquarters. I even probably embellished a lot of that stuff to convince him, and he was thoroughly convinced. And then I had him sign an NDA.
Wow.
So that was one of. I probably did it. Well, I know I did it other times. This is a funny story about Nellis Test and Training Range when we were out there. When I was out there at the group. Back in those days, in the late 70s and 80s, counties, prostitution was legal. Nevada, most counties had Nye County, which most of Dallas testing range encompassed Nye County, a little bit of Lincoln, and a little bit of Clark. Our job was to go out and recruit every single prostitute around the Nellis testing range and pay them to inform us when an Air Force person came in and talked about anything dealing with their job.
Wow.
And we did that. And I tell you what, the best sources of information were those prostitutes.
No way.
Because we actually ran a case against a pilot.
Because of?
He came in, he used one particular prostitute all the time. He was a major, and he was flying the 117.
Oh, wow.
And he would come in and try to impress her by telling her stories about the F-119. And he was doing 117, 119. And that, and he could do all these strange things, and even we could chase flying saucers with him and all this stuff. Well, when we visited, she called us. We had a special phone number. She called us and she said, I got some information for you. So she was in Pearl.
Were they paid?
Oh, well paid.
So wait, the Air Force paid prostitutes? Is that what
Yeah.
All right.
Well, but not for just for the information. So I go out there with another agent, and we go in, and she says, she gives us his name, and she tells us everything he said. And I said, he told you that stuff, yeah? I don't know if any of it's true. Actually, they don't know. I said, okay. I said, how often does he come in? She said, once every couple of weeks. Well, they could only get off every, whatever it was, I don't remember now. And periodically, he would come in. I said, does he make an appointment? And she said, yeah. I said, next time he calls to make an appointment, let us know. We're gonna bug the room. And so she does, and we bug it. And she's just asking him questions. Hey, remember you told me about that plane that you guys are flying out there and the flying saucers and stuff? And then he went on like 20-some minutes talking about it. So she calls us and says, hey, he left, and I turned it off like you told us to. We come out and get it, and then we go pay a visit at the dorm in Tonopah. And it's funny, he's in this dorm, and this officer, he's a major, and he has a suite, and I knock on the door, he opens it, and his face just went, he knew. I said, especially these directors, I said, I need to talk to you. He says, okay. I said, but not here. You're going to go with me. We're going to go to the OSI office, which we had one in Tonopah. He says, you want me to bring anything with me? I said, no, just with your ID. So, put him in the vehicle. We get him in the office, put him in interrogation. And what you do is you put him in there, and there's a camera, and they know the camera's on, and we sit him there, and we let him wait. Because this is going to be interrogation. And that guy's married. That's two children. So I come in with the other agent, and I sit down, I said, Major, he said, I know what you're going to talk about. I said, shut your mouth. Don't even talk to me yet. I said, when I ask you a question, you can answer it. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I tell him, I kind of give him a preamble, not mentioning anything directly.
Sure.
I said, you're a major in the United States Air Force. You've been a pilot for, whatever it was, 14, 15 years. You're flying one of the most expensive and most classified aircraft that the Air Force has. And you're married, right? You got 2 kids. Your wife's at Edwards Air Force Base. You're here. And you can't keep it in your pants. And he starts crying.
Yeah.
It's not funny, but he starts crying. He said, okay. I said, but, before I ask any questions, I have to read this to you. Article 31. That's the Fifth Amendment. Your right to be silent, all that stuff. And I pulled up the document. I said, "You sign there in the bottom that you're acknowledging." He does. I said, "So now we're going to talk, if you want to talk. But remember what's going to happen if you don't talk to me. But you don't have to talk to me."
Yeah.
And he talked.
Yeah, of course
He
you
admitted
did.
it.
Yeah.
He took offline status. Sent it back downwards. He eventually, he just took him off that program. I don't know really what happened. I mean, I think he went back to flying status, but not anything classified.
I guess you had to have the prosecutors well signed NDAs.
Well, they don't know. Yeah, we do, but
They're not liable to really talk about it.
they keep their mouths shut.
Yeah, they're good. They're good at keeping secrets.
Very good.
Yeah.
And that was one of many cases.
So quite successful.
Very, very successful. Yeah, I said the Air Force spent a lot of money in prostitution, but we never got anything from it, but information.
Yeah. On the books, at least. Okay, so towards the end of the 80s, now we've gone through so many things in terms of documents coming forward, prominent researchers being sort of outed as part of a disinformation campaign. A lot is going on in ufology. But then in 1988, there was a TV special which you're on, the UFO cover-up on TV. And, well, you're hidden under the alien's falcon, if I'm not mistaken. And then there's also, what was it? It was Condor. Was the other person, and you.
Bob Collins, Robert Collins.
That's right. And you go on there talking about a lot of really interesting things. Now, I want to know, did that come from your own volition, or was that an order to do something like that? Where did that come from? Where did the impetus?
Well, number one, that wasn't live. That was recorded a year before.
Right.
And that was part of another operation.
And that came from OSI? So they were, because that
was 87.
Oh, 87, my bad. And it was so strange because, you're basically making public what the same information that you were giving to Paul Benowitz. What was the call there? Why go from, hey, we're gonna keep this contained and control the situation, to now go public with this thing? Like, what was the reason?
OSI was trying to. That was part of an OSI and FBI investigation. They were trying to draw somebody out.
I see.
And they were hoping that what I said. Now, at the time I did that interview, I didn't know about what was going to happen a year later. Actually, it was like 15 months before the October 87 interview. Or the movie.
Yeah, when it came out.
So, I didn't know
that the lid was going to get blown.
No.
So check it out. You'll spend tens of thousands of dollars on your tools and your equipment for your shop, and then you spend $50 on a crappy stool that's going to ruin your back, and then tip you over on your ass as soon as it runs over a zip tie. That is not smart math. So let's just say you got that cheap stool and you spend a full day working off of it. Your back is wrecked, your knees hurt, you can't hardly get back up. That's because you're dealing with it's a piece of. Go to viperindustrial.com and get yourself something that's going to take care of you all day long. We're talking back support, lumbar support, and 4-inch casters where you can just wheel around and have some fun for once. I mean, remember when working on cars was fun? Get back to that. That's why I tell you guys to invest in Microchair, because it's the only tool in the shop you need.
And so they were hoping, and I wasn't involved in this part, they were hoping to draw out somebody that they were looking for that had disclosed classified information to somebody else. And so I had a script
Okay. And were you aware of what parts of that script were fabricated, confabulated, and which parts were maybe real?
Most of what I said was real, but there was some probably misinformation in there.
And what?
I don't remember. I don't remember.
Okay, the strawberry ice cream probably.
No, the strawberry ice cream was real.
No, it wasn't. Stuff, really?
Absolutely, the strawberry ice cream. Go back and ask Linda Howell. Okay, Linda Howell had she interviewed the captain that lived with Eba 1.
Okay.
From 47, and he used the strawberry ice cream. That one started back in 1980 when Linda Howell heard that from the captain.
And what was the reason to include that? I feel like that feels like disinformation.
It does.
And is that why?
Yeah.
Because it's
So nobody's going to believe it.
It's so outlandish. We're just going to throw that in there. Wow. So that was officially authorized. It was a project. Was there a name to that project?
I'm sure there was, but I don't recall it. I don't recall what the name is now.
And then the whole idea of like the aviary and what was that about?
Well, the aviary was created by Jamie Shandera and others. I can't even think of her name. Tracy. What's her name? Anyways, that was created by them because of the working group that I was a part of. That Hal Putoff, Kit Green, Scott. Scott, what's his name? Senator Pell's aide. And others that we would meet. Richard Helms was actually the Falcon. He was the part of the control. I was just a really low person on a totem pole, so to speak. And I did a lot of fetching things for them and the security clearances and stuff for them when they had meetings. And Jamie Shandera got wind of that, and he named these people the Aviary. We found out about that after it was out in the public. I think Phil Klass.
Yeah.
Phil Klass was.
Interesting stuff. What's also interesting, and this is something I wanted to mention, and not something I've ever talked about before, but there is evidence that I have that shows. You familiar with David Copperfield?
Yes.
His father was stationed in Roswell. I have a picture of his ID from 1945 at Roswell Air Force Base, and he was counterintelligence at Roswell.
I didn't know that.
Now I have, not a lot of people do. Nobody does, actually. But I did some digging because I have, I just thought this was an interesting overlap as well, being is that the most recognizable deception artist of our time, David Copperfield, had a father who may or may not have been part of the Roswell cover-up. It was the driving force for David's show in Vegas for many, many years, which involved a UFO, an alien. Like, he had this whole Vegas show, and what started that was him going through his father's things when his father passed and finding his ID.
Never knew that.
Yeah, so there's his ID, and if you see here, it says Squadron C6. And that's not an actual squadron that flew.
Wow.
Yeah, so the last name's different, obviously. It's not Copperfield now.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah, so he might have known more than... I believe his mother was also stationed there near Roswell. And so, yeah. Interesting tidbit.
Very interesting.
Were you ever tasked, because we hear this, whether it's, I interviewed John Ramirez, who was here as well, who's, ex-CIA, Lou Elizondo, and we know for a fact now that you're never fully an ex information agent. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Were there ever instances where you were called upon, and I'm not going to, ask you for specifics if those are classified, but were there ever instances that you were called upon after you left the OSI that had to do with UFOs?
Yes.
Okay. Would that be prior to 2015 or after?
Prior.
Never after?
No, never after.
Okay. And this was between 2002, 2003, and 2015, somewhere in there where you would...
I left government service in 1988. I was recalled in 1991
Okay.
to work on a project, and again in 94. And then after 2002, I was a contract employee for a while.
You were a contract employee for the OSI?
Just, we'll leave it at U.S. intelligence.
At U.S. intelligence. And it had to do with the UFO topic.
Not all of it. I would say 50-50.
Was that in a monitoring capacity or in a sort of, did you have to inject yourself into this in order to, throw some information into the mix that perhaps wasn't true?
No. I worked for Dr. Putoff from 94 to 2007.
I see.
And so
I see.
I'll
I
leave
understand.
it at that.
I understand. Okay. Someone else was interested in Hal Putoff's work. Okay. Wow. Interesting. Would Hal be aware of that, you think?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
smart
Absolutely.
guy.
Yeah, very smart. Brilliant person.
Yeah. Can't put much past him.
No.
How many saps do you think he was read into?
Oh, God. It was so much. When I first started working for him, I didn't have it took a while for me to get a DARPA clearance. Okay. And he would be working on things in his own skiff, and he would tease me, but he would never tell me. But when I got the clearance, it was only on a need to know. There were times when I would go into the skiff and there would be a meeting, and we'd sit and talk, and then we'd talk for an hour, the scientist and his other techs, and then he'd say, "Rick, bye," and I'd leave. And they were working on something that I didn't have access to. I just didn't have a note. But I would say dozens, and probably more.
Mm-hmm.
He had, and this isn't a secret, but he had, or proprietary, because there's a lot of things I can't talk about. He had, in a certain area of the lab, pieces of extraterrestrial material that he was trying to figure out.
And is that part of the reason why you were contracted? Partially?
No, partially. It was because of my counterintelligence work and what I could do and what I could... because a lot of what I did was I went out to talk to people. He would send me out to interview people that had some connections. I interviewed... we went to South Dakota, and I went to South Dakota with some other people from the lab that dug up something, because in 1958, I think it was, can't remember what year, but in the 50s or early 60s, a UFO had crashed on this rancher's land, and he never told anybody about it. He buried it.
No way.
Yeah, he buried it. And his grandson is the one that got a hold of somebody who got a hold of somebody who got a hold of Dr. Putoff. And then I was the one that went to South Dakota to try to find what did you bury. And the only thing that the grandson knew, because his grandfather was dead and his father was dead, it's just a grandson.
Yeah.
And it was that it was buried in this one area that there's nothing grows around it.
Mm.
And they water it and nothing grows. So this was the place. So we, that's about all I can talk about.
Did you see anything?
We saw a lot.
You saw what they took out of the ground?
somebody saw what was taken out of the ground, and it went someplace. But at that time, it was turned over to the government.
Right, Pat?
No, this is in. No, it went to probably Groom Lake, I guess.
Okay.
No, this was in 2002, I think.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. Or, no, 2000.
And the crash would have happened in the 50s or the early 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was that near any type of radar base?
It was southwest corner of the state, South Keystone. It was just, yeah.
So
there's Ellsworth Air Force Base. It's
Yeah.
still there. It was a couple hundred miles from there, but
was
I think it was actually near. Later on, a Minuteman site,
okay.
but
Yeah.
in the 50s,
Not-
that didn't happen.
Didn't have one there. Well, that's really interesting, and that's so you were read into that program. You were read into that recovery, then I guess.
I was ready to. Well, partially. I didn't handle anything.
Yeah.
I didn't analyze anything. I just set everything up, and then other people came in and did it.
So you had partial access.
Yeah, just limited.
Limited. And how many limited partial accesses have you had to other crashes, would you say?
4. But that was during my OSI career. That was in the 70s.
So you had quite a few.
I was actually at one crash site. I was there. But the crash happened years before, but they found it. They discovered it. And I went there as part of a team to do the counterintelligence work regarding the people that found
the
crash
witnesses.
site. But this crash site was in sometime in the 60s.
And it was undiscovered.
And it was undiscovered. And a mining exploration team from some company was doing work in this shaft, and they found it in this mine shaft. And now that's another. I mean, I don't know anything other than they found it. And when we went there,
You went on site.
we went on site. It was assumed because of a lot of factors that the other investigators, not me, because of where it was, that this thing had crashed here outside this mine shaft, and these miners didn't know what to do with it, so they put it in the mine shaft, and they had it in there, and I don't know why they never reported it to anybody, or maybe they did. There's no record that I know of. Maybe there were records. Don't hold me to that, because we went there and they had found it in the shaft.
And they extracted it.
They extracted it out. The government, the DART team, SDART, Special Down Aircraft Recovery Team, did it, and they pulled it out. And it took them. I don't think they even got inside of it until they got it to Tonopah. And now jump ahead to when I was out there. This is before I went to Tonopah, to Dallas Test and Training Range. I checked on that while I was there, and they still had that craft there.
The disc.
The disc, yeah, it was a disc, and it was a small one. It was not that big. It was.
You saw it?
Yeah, I saw the craft. Yeah, I was there at the crash site, and I saw him pull it out. And
Really?
It was probably 5 feet in diameter. So but they couldn't get into it. They couldn't find an opening.
So it was like a solid.
Yeah. Well, they did eventually, but
Yeah.
not during that time. When I was there, I didn't see any.
How long did it take them to get in?
I don't know. Like I said, that was 1980, 81. I was there in 84. They got it open 4 years, maybe 3 or 4 years. I don't know exactly how they did that.
Plasma cutters or?
something.
Yeah.
And what I don't know is whether they found bodies in there. They would have had to have been mini bodies. I mean, they might have had to be 2 feet tall.
No, it was very small. It was like
Very small.
like a drone ship or something.
It could very well be. I think somebody told me that was probably a scout ship that crashed for some reason. There was damage. It's funny because they couldn't get in it, but the part of it was indented. You know, I guess when it hit the ground, or I don't know exactly how, but there was part of it that was indented. So, you know, I always, you know, of course, I don't know technology like others do, but why did it take them so long? I mean, we had diamond cutters and all sorts of things back in those days, but they obviously got it open. But I don't know what they found. I wasn't able to read that.
Was that the first time you saw with your own eyes?
Yeah.
UFO. Was that the last?
No.
Let's go. Tell me about another UFO you saw.
While I was at, I gotta be very careful. While I was at the story I gave you earlier about being on call and getting a call, I did. Me and my partner went out to a place outside the Dallas Test and Training Range up near Warm Springs. There had been a crash, and that's about all they can talk about it, because there's a lot of other things that happened that could very well still be classified.
Were there beings involved?
Yes.
You saw the beings?
I didn't see the beings, no.
You saw the
The
crash?
beings were, well, let me say this. When I got there,
It was cleaned up?
no, the bodies were covered.
Oh, I see.
So I didn't actually, I can't say, you know, I can say, yeah, I saw the body. Well, no, wait a minute, they're covered. So I'm not going to say that because I didn't see the bodies. I don't know what they looked probably at least 5 foot. I'm just looking at.
Yeah, you assumed that those were alien bodies.
Yeah, I assumed they were alien bodies. Yeah, they were covered up. The other agent that came later that had access to everything in the world about that, he took over. I was just, remember, I was a duty on call, and I went out there initially. I set up the counterintelligence ring, as we called it. The highway patrol, the state trooper, and the Nye County Sheriff's deputy that was on scene, because
you had to debrief them, and
I did all that stuff, and they contracted a trucking company out of Hawthorne, Nevada, to come and put it on a flatbed. I guess we didn't have one. Our government didn't have. And I had to make that arrangements with that trucking company. And I had to make sure that the driver, this is funny. When I was making the arrangements, this is Hawthorne, and there's an army base there at Hawthorne in Nevada. It's a depot. They make bombs. And so this trucking company worked out there a lot.
They're used to like classified scenarios.
Or sensitive. Yeah.
Sensitive, yeah.
So I said, I need a driver that had been in the military and they could take orders. And the woman that was coordinating this with said, why? Because I just need it. Or we'll have to go to another trucking company. She said, we take bombs all the time out to Hawthorne. And I said, listen, man, this is what I need. So I get this guy. He's the foreman of a certain section of the trucking company. He, I go there and I sit him down. I said, you're gonna pick something up and you're gonna take it from here to there. And he said, okay. I said, you can't ask questions. My lips are sealed. I said, so you agree to do this? You agree to sign this? He said, I've done it before. I said, you've done it before? He said, yeah. You talking about these round things? And I said, what do you mean round things? He said, well, before I picked up a round thing and took it out to the base. Okay, you're the guy.
Wow.
You're the guy I want. And so he went and did the thing.
You watched it happen?
No, the other agent that was in charge of it. I did all this setup.
All the
but I
paperwork
was-
stuff, all the setup.
I did not. I was not
Yeah.
there during that time.
That's what counterintelligence does. They funnel all the information. You create the classifications. You debrief the people, give them cover stories, tell the agents what to tell the press, like that type of thing, right?
Exactly. And the craft itself, that's the other guys.
Did you have conversations with those guys?
I would have to coordinate. Yeah, there would be coordination.
I
But,
mean, philosophical conversations. Did you guys speak about the origins? Did you guys speak about, what you think it is, like off record?
yeah,
Like,
of course.
yeah.
yeah.
And were they able to give you information that you had never even thought of, or did they seem legitimately like really well versed in this topic? Like they had information that was really pertinent to this, like origin or reason, or whom, why, where, what, like all these speculative things that we talk about. Did you get access to some of that?
No.
Through those conversations?
We would talk philosophically, but I didn't have a need to know
Right. So it was all
that information. And I tell you
hypothetical.
what, within the intelligence community, I don't care if you're my best friend, you might be able to take a bullet for me. We wore guns too, remember? But I'm not gonna tell you something.
Yeah, you're not
I'm
gonna break
supposed
your-
to. Nope,
yeah.
I'm not gonna do that. And that's the way it was. We would talk philosophically.
You talk about aliens.
About these guys. I bet you I bet there's a base on Mars, or or maybe Venus isn't what it. Things like that. We would
Yeah.
talk about where they come from. Maybe they're coming from Mars. Maybe they're coming from Pluto. Things like that we would talk about, but they would never say no. They came from Epsilon Ready or something. No, they would never say that.
Okay. Man, what does that feel like seeing something like that?
Well, going all the way back to my first briefing and not believing any of it, every single time I was exposed to an extraterrestrial craft or something to do with an extraterrestrial being, it strengthened my belief that everything that I was briefed on is fact.
What did that feel like?
Scary in a way, because one of the things that people don't like to talk about, I don't like to talk about it in great details, is I was brought up a Catholic. I went to parochial school. I was an altar boy. Believed in God, and did my prayers and did all my confraternity and everything. And I spent some time in a monastery before I even went to high school. So I had a strong religious belief. Now, one of the questions that people always ask me, and I ask myself, is, okay, God created the universe, so I guess he created the aliens too. Did he? Some of the things we learned, or Linda Howe's written about EBA 1, he claims that they put a humanoid on a planet 2,000 years ago. Was that Jesus? These questions I have always had. And when I had the briefing, I have to, okay, wait a minute. Is this for real? Okay, it's for real. Are these things made by God? It's just something I think about. And other people have too. And if you connect the dots, could it affect the way other people believe in their religion? And that's something I really don't like to get into. I mean, I've settled myself, but there were other people out there that, the revelation that this guy several years ago did on a UFO convention, that some of the extraterrestrial characters are similar to Tibetan characters. What does that mean? That they lived here on Earth? They created the Tibetans? Or, there's all these questions that people have to think about.
Yeah, it is pretty. It does get pretty existential when you start thinking about that, and thinking about what that means for us here, why we're here, why they want to be here with us, why their presence is here. And I'm looking at the list as I speak to you here of like these different names. And I have no idea what to make of this. Like personally, I don't know what to make of any of this, what to make of, because, you know, as you can probably assume, someone who's very well versed in counterintelligence, I'm a magician. Probably the most skeptical person out there in terms of, you know, understanding methodry, in terms of, you know, all the methods on how to obtain information secretly, or how to misdirect, and all of this. You know, I'm given all this, everything you're telling me, and it's a melting pot of 1,000 different things. With all the years that you have, you know, built into this, the information that you've gathered, all the secret things that you've seen that you can't talk about, the people you've spoken with, the projects you've worked on, is there one overarching thing that neatly packages everything, a la, you know, Passport to Magonia, Jacques Vallée, Control System, or are we dealing with like 1,000 separate things?
Separate things.
You think so?
I think the one thing that convinced me beyond anything else that I had access to was listening to this Air Force sergeant, female, who was abducted countless times, went through literally tortured by these extraterrestrials, having marks on her hands. He took her fingernails off, her toenails off. She was bleeding from her vaginal area almost after every abduction, bleeding from the eye, ruptured her eardrum once. And then a lot of things that we did in a surveillance capacity to confirm what she says, that convinced me that they weren't humans doing this to her. They were extraterrestrials. Now, were the extraterrestrials interdimensional? I don't know. You know, there's an argument that can be made. But they were not humans doing this to her.
Brought to you by Apple Card. This summer, earn daily cash back with Apple Card. Apply for Apple Card now and use in minutes with Apple Pay, subject to credit approval. Apple Card is issued by Goldman Sachs Bank USA, Salt Lake City branch. Terms and more at applecard.com.
And I wish I could tell you how we know, but believe me, the government knows that these were extraterrestrials that were doing this to her.
You surveilled it?
We actually did. We knew, based on a lot of things that I can't talk about, methods and sources I can't ever talk about, but we knew when they were going to do this to her. She lived in an apartment complex outside Kirtland Air Force Base. She was stationed in Kirtland. And she lived in a 2-story, real small apartment. And her bedroom was upstairs. And we knew that she would be taken during a time period. And we set up a surveillance. And that's about all I can say. That's a fact. And she's a whistleblower. And she would be the number one person I would put in front of a camera if I was a member of Congress. She is a legitimate whistleblower. She retired from the military. She's a grandmother now. She taught school for some time. She lives around the D.C. area. I'm sorry, she lives around the Baltimore area. But she has been interviewed by many of the U.S. representatives and at least 2 senators and some of their staff. So she's legitimate. Now, the problem is what happens when she tells her story. I worked with him before, but his mentality regarding they can't be hostile. They're all benevolent. It's absolutely out the window. And I've told him this to his face. I said, Steve, you're relying on faulty information. You're being misinformed. And I'm telling you, listen to me, I'm a counterintelligence officer. People within your circle are misinforming because there are hostile extraterrestrials out there. And that's the ones we have to worry about.
And you've seen this firsthand.
I've seen this firsthand.
So many questions that you can't answer.
Well, I've seen her sitting in front of me talking about this. You know, as far as firsthand, I wasn't there when she was doing all this stuff was happening.
But you saw the surveillance images, the surveillance apparatus, whatever that was, whether they filmed it, I don't know. But you saw that.
I was involved in this.
You were involved with like setting up the surveillance. And you had enough to go on. First of all, how you knew that was going to happen is a whole other discussion I'm sure you can't have.
No, because I didn't know
what the protocol
all the technical stuff.
But they knew.
Yeah, we had Air Force Intel, we had FBI, we had OSI, we had NSA, all part of this. Because in order to, if you can imagine, in order to understand something that's alien to us, we have to have the top technical people within the NSA and these other agencies involved to create something, to build something. Plus, there were contractors involved in this too.
So this is a multi-pronged, multifaceted, multi-departmented sting operation in order to capture this on some type of media that you can then review, and it was successful.
Yes, that was successful. There were some that weren't, but that was successful.
Obviously she was made aware, and she was part of this operation.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, did you get to interview her after?
Yeah, we thwarted it. She wasn't abducted that night.
You thwarted it?
Yeah, we prevented it based on all this stuff. And we got her out and we got her to a safe location because there was always doubt. Not in my mind, but other people's minds.
Sure.
There was an FBI agent working on this, and he didn't believe a word she said. Even after Apollo, he was just, I don't believe any of that stuff. But after that night, he sat I'm not exaggerating a bit, he sat in a room when we had her out at the base. It wasn't OSI office, it was another secure facility out at the base. Because we didn't know if these things were coming after. But we were in a protected area at the base. It was that Sandy Laboratories area. And this FBI agent sat in a room crying because he doubted her. He said, all this time, 8 months or whatever it was, I doubted her, and she's telling the truth.
So you felt bad?
I believed her. He didn't. He was always skeptical about it. Everything.
Rightfully so, I think.
Yeah, rightfully so. And he had a lot of background. He was a Vietnam vet. He was in a special, the Studies Operations Group. I don't know if you know what that is in Vietnam. The guys work behind the lines. They drop them off in Laos for 100 days or whatever it was. I mean, he went through a lot, this guy. And he's a tough, rugged FBI agent. But he had it changed him. It actually changed him, because I worked with him after that on other cases, including Paul Benowitz case, and he was a different person. as I saw in other people who worked that operation, they I think a lot of them were scared. I mean, if you see something that's literally out of this world and your mind can't comprehend it, because if you go into something and you just, like a child, the experience of a child, putting them in a hostile, not a hostile environment, a strange environment, they can't comprehend, you know, and humans are the same, you know, we were the same way. We can't comprehend what we're seeing or how we're going to rectify it. When you're given, and regardless of the training, because we went through a lot of training, really good training in intelligence operations course. I mean, they would put you in a situation, not UFO situations or anything like that, but they would put you in situations where there's no wind, but they made you go all the way up to the end, and you figure you're gonna die, you know, in the exercise or something. But they do this over and over and over and over again.
Stress inoculation.
Exactly. I was just going to say that. Stress inoculation. So when you're out doing the job in the real field, nothing's going to bother you. Nothing's going to scare you. But regardless, I mean, not much scares me. But after that, seeing what I saw or listening to her tell her stories, you know, I'm thinking, wow, sure hope that doesn't happen to my girlfriend, or that then I wasn't married, or my mother or my sister. I mean, why are they picking on her? And, you know, all these that you're worried about yourself. And why they pick her? That's the question that I don't know the answer to. I'm sure maybe the government does.
Are they on here?
Yeah, they're there.
Which ones are they?
The hepaloids, I'm sorry, let me say the insect ones, quadriloids.
The ones that look like insects?
Yeah.
Those were the ones that were...
But this is a complicated part of it. They are able to manipulate your observation of them. I mean...
Sure.
They can manipulate mine.
Can they manipulate the camera?
I don't know. Never thought of that.
So, was there something that you saw in that operation?
I can't talk about what I saw. But I can tell you they're real.
Can I... Okay, so they're not the quadriloids, these ones.
Yeah.
The aliens, the insect humanoid types.
Yes.
It says they have a high IQ. Why would something with a high IQ be so violent?
That's trying to get inside an alien mind, and we can't do that.
I'm going to show you something.
You can have this. This is yours.
Okay. I'm going to show you something.
Okay. Wow.
Does that look like something you've seen before?
I can't say.
I think you just did. Was that...
In pictures, in a document, not in real life.
Is that the same thing that was involved here, or is that different?
I better not say.
Okay.
No, I'm not going to say.
Okay.
Is that going to be on your air here?
That hasn't been made public.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're going to make it public?
Not anytime soon.
Okay, no, I better not say that.
Yeah. So if I didn't make it public, you could confirm or deny?
Probably.
Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe one day.
Did we take a break?
Let's take a break.
Yeah.
All right. That's a good time for a break. Okay. I mean, where to transition from something like that? It's just so jarring to hear that. I've never once heard of an abduction being thwarted. I think that's a new one for me. You know, we hear about abductions. We hear about people trying to film them unsuccessfully. Something always goes wrong. Murphy's Law, some type of, you know, whether that's people at Skinwalker Ranch filming stuff and things going haywire, and but never had it occurred to me that, other than the instances of people saying, sort of the Lord's name or something, like you hear about stories like that, and that sort of fends them off. Is that is there any merit to that?
Well, there was part of that. She was religious, and she wore a St. Christopher's cross, but that didn't stop anything.
Yeah,
they didn't seem to. And there's a lot more. She would argue with them. This is in the beginning. Okay, we're going back months and months and months.
Yeah.
When she first came to us, which we didn't believe her. To tell you the truth, we didn't believe her. She would tell us that she would have arguments with him because of God, and they kept asking her who is God, who is God, who is this human God, and she couldn't explain. But she would pray, and afterwards she would say, "Why are they doing this to me?" And again, the government, the Air Force, let's say this: the abduction started, and she didn't come to us right away. She was going to the base hospital or the sick hall.
Yeah.
And she didn't know what it was. She thought she was having dreams or whatever it was. But she was having fingernails were taken out. Well, they thought she was doing it to herself, self-mutilation. She was in a very sensitive career field. And so they were careful. She had PRP, so they were very careful of that, of what she claims having to her. So they took her off the job and put her in it's like an administrative office within her squadron. And that upset her because, she liked the job she was doing. But these things were getting worse and worse. Finally, this doctor, the base physician, who was an internist, who had been co-opted by us because of other things, saw her. And he immediately called us, and that's how she became involved with the West Side. He said, "You need to interview this girl, this sergeant." I said, "Okay." So me and this female agent interviewed her, and she never mentioned aliens or anything like that. Okay, nothing like that. She's saying this phenomenon is occurring to her, where somebody is taking her and doing all these things to her. Now, at that time, she was living on the base. She hadn't moved off the base yet. She's still living on the base. And she lived in an all-female back then. They were co-ed. She lived in a female dorm. There's only females in there. And there's security, keeping the men out, so to speak. It's like a house mother.
Sure.
I said, "Well, who's getting in your room? How would they get in your room?" "I don't know," she says. We just couldn't understand. And why were they doing this to you? And at that point, it was the fingernails and the toenails
That were removed. All of them, or just?
No, just one. Or they were cut, and it would take one off, and they scrape the under the skin after the nail has been removed. And so we checked with the band. Why would anybody be? And maybe somebody had a fetish. There were perverts.
Deviant behavior. Some guy like toenails. And we had all sorts of. We had our own sex. I mean, OSI, remember, had an investigative side, a criminal investigation side. These guys investigated rapes. We, get those experts in. They have no idea. I never heard of that. Guys that have people have fetishes and perversions, but nothing about removing nails or anything like that. So we couldn't figure it out. And so then it would go, 4 or 5 months, nothing, and then it would happen again. And like I said, initially it's just fingernails. She did have her
At one point, her eardrum punctured, her right eardrum. And then it started getting worse. Then she went in one night to the emergency room, the base hospital emergency room. She's bleeding from the vaginal area. She had holes poked between her, on her left foot, between her big toe and her first toe. Like somebody put a rod in there, but it wasn't bleeding. So, you know, the guy in the emergency room, of course, he's just a regular doctor. He couldn't figure it out. He calls OSI, the criminal people, because he said she'd been raped.
Yeah.
So they went through the whole rape protocol.
Yeah.
Called in a gynecologist, and the gynecologist said, no, she didn't have sex. Somebody inserted something into her vaginal area. So at that time, they admitted her because they were thoroughly convinced she was doing this to herself. Self-mutilation. So she was in a hospital for, I don't know how long. And we interviewed her, I think twice, maybe 3 times while she was in the hospital. And she was so upset because she said, I'm not doing it to myself. I'm not doing it to myself. So then they sent her down to Shepherd Air Force Base in Wichita Falls. That's the Air Force Psychiatric Hospital down there. So they sent her down there to be thoroughly evaluated because they're saying she's nuts. So I don't remember how long she was down there, but a while, a couple months or something. Anyway, she comes back because the psychiatrist says there's nothing wrong with her. She's not. In fact, I read the psychiatric report from this psychiatrist. In fact, we had OSI at Shepherd Air Force Base go talk to this psychiatrist who wrote this.
Yeah, to make sure that he was like.
It was a
sound.
She. It was a she.
Or a she.
And she said she's not doing it to herself. It's not self-mutilation. Some outside entity is doing this. This is in her report. And so we get it back, and I thought, wow. Well, then we're thinking, well, she has a boyfriend that she doesn't, and they're experimenting, doing,
who knows
things to each other, because in some relationships, gay or even hetero, insertion of something into the oral cavities, it can be a game or something. So we kind of thought that, and we brought her in for an interview, and she admitted having a boyfriend and having sex. She wasn't a virgin or anything like that, but her boyfriend belonged to this squadron. I can't remember the name of that left went TDY or temporary duty all the time. I mean, he'd come back for a while and he'd go. I think he installed equipment or something like that. Anyways, so then we interviewed him. He didn't do anything like that. We made him do a polygraph. I mean, no, he never hurt her. He never harmed her. But he said at night, he would spend a night with her, and after sex or something, and then he'd go to sleep. But she'd talk in her sleep, or she'd scream in her sleep, or she'd wake up and yell and scream. Many times he said this happened. And he thought, well, somebody's in here or somebody's... Now, he was going to her dorm room, and it's not supposed to happen, So he thought that maybe somebody was trying to catch him doing something. And that's one reason why she moved off base. But, she made sergeant and moved off base. So all these factors are building up and building up. So we're at the point we don't really know what to do. So finally we asked her to take a polygraph, and she took a polygraph. She passed it, and then we had to. Now this is something I can't go into a great deal to deal with, but we have this intelligence service has this hypnotic polygraph system that very, very rarely is used, where you put somebody under hypnosis and you polygraph. Okay, and the technique I can't go into. I'm not a polygraph examiner, but there's certain people that have to do this. I mean, it just can't be a regular polygraph examiner. And most of ours were psychologists. Okay, anyways, she went through that and passed. Because according to them, and not me, but according to them, when you're in hypnosis, you can't lie. So that's...
You can't cheat a polygraph.
You can't cheat a polygraph, yeah. So that set the flag up in headquarters and everybody at DIA, and that's when the full wrath of the government came in on her side.
Whoa. And then that's where the sting operation began to get set up. Did they already have a protocol in place that they were going to act on?
Yeah.
So they already had something that was like kind of field tested?
Yeah, but I don't know anything about that. I was never involved in any of that.
Sure, but they came in, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to set this up, do this way, briefed her on that, and then it happened.
Well, let me go back a little bit. One of the things they wanted when she moved to the off-base apartment, it was just outside the base, that a quarter mile out the base, an apartment complex. They wanted us to place covert devices in the place. Now, we don't do that. We have a technical service people that do that. There's
Without her knowing?
Without her knowing.
Do you think if she knew, it wouldn't work?
Well, they do. They did. They think that's the way they think.
That like if she knew, they knew.
Yeah, but it's a device that we can't ever use this in court. We can't use it against her in any kind of administrative. It's something that we're going to collect and keep, and never tell her. Okay. Now we do that a lot in a lot of cases. In FISA warrants, if they're non-criminal FISA warrants, if I get a FISA warrant for your house, I'll place bugs in there, but it's only for counterintelligence collection. I'll go get them.
Could never be used.
Never be used in court. We go to a federal court and get a criminal warrant, then that can be used against you.
Sure. Yeah. Wiretaps.
Yeah, wiretaps and stuff. Yeah, Title 3s, 4s, or 5s. Anyways, so we did that. We did what headquarters wanted us to do. OSI technicals.
And this is video and audio recording?
No, it's just, I think it's just audio first. I think it was just audio. Video came later, but I think it was just audio initially. And I think they put in something else later. But anyways, the audio recorded everything. And well, I can't go into details.
But you can hear the beings?
You can hear voices.
You can hear voices. More than hers.
More than one.
Male, female? Indistinguishable?
Undistinguishable. I only heard a small portion, maybe 10
Oh my
seconds.
gosh, what was that like hearing that?
Well,
Is that frightening?
yeah, because it was echoing. It was like somebody was talking through one of those those
Like megaphones?
cheerleader. No, just
Oh.
a cheerleader. Cone. The
Yeah.
cone. The old time cheerleader, not the electric ones.
Like a tin canny sort of
Yeah,
voice?
exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. And then of course they analyzed all that. The tech people. I didn't do any of that. And then later they put the camera in, but it verified everything. Everything she was telling us is there, and
then,
that's why there's a lot of other steps that were taken. A lot of other people came in. A lot of other equipment was used, and sources and methods.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go into.
how clear is that footage?
I never saw video. I saw only the audio. I heard the audio. I didn't see the video.
Okay.
But the audio was very convincing to me. There was more. The thing about it is, it was like she was in a room full of people with these talking through codes. It wasn't just one voice. And I thought, well, at
They were
first...
speaking English?
English, yeah. Speaking English.
Broken English? How clear
Just
was
as clear English as you and I speak. Or you speak, maybe, I don't know.
Whoa.
No, it was English. And, well, let me go back. After we put the bug in, we heard this. They wanted us to go in and do a surreptitious search for any recording devices. Okay, so they hear the voices. Okay, she's making them up. She has a tape recorder or something, you know,
I see.
something. Okay, so we did. Well, not me, but of course I did. You know, our experts went in and they can go in and put everything back. If this was like this, they'll put it back. You know, they'll take pictures, everything. And they went in and they didn't find it. She had a reel-to-reel, one of these old Sony reel-to-reel tape recorders, like that, and that's it. She had a radio, you know, regular radio, AM, FM radio. She didn't have anything else in there. But this, they took the tapes and listened. It was recording. It wasn't projecting anything. She didn't have anything that projected the audio. You know.
She was trying to record herself.
Yeah. No, she wasn't doing that. No. She wasn't using that at all.
I see.
So they, you know, we sent that up to headquarters. They say, these voices are English. You know, everybody's thinking English. Why are they talking English to her? Why are they doing it through her mind? All these things, questions that I would be asking too. And because when I first heard that small portion of it, I thought, she said an orgy. And that's what it kind of sounded like.
What did they say?
They were telling her things, telling her to do things.
Like what?
Lift your arm, spread your legs, things like that.
Oh my gosh.
Lift your arm. And, I forgot. They did things in her armpits too. I forgot that they did that.
They were doing this in her room.
But no, initially in her room. Now, I can't go into a lot of details, but this is before she was taken someplace. Okay, so everything up to that point was done there, either in her room on the base, or dorm room in the apartment, on the base, or the apartment upstairs in the bedroom. And after we did what we did, after we interviewed her, because we eventually said, listen to this tape.
Oh, we've recorded you.
We recorded you. And I said, well, first of all, we said, listen, we're investigating this and we did something and we want to tell you about it. Well, she kind of figured out something. She's smart. And I said, listen to this. And she listened. She said, oh, yeah, that was them. I said, and dumb person like me, well, not dumb, but why are they speaking in English? I asked her. She says, I don't know, ask them. I don't know why they were, why are they speaking in English? She says, I said, they always speak in English? She said, yeah. She said, I don't understand alien. Why would they? Well, I understand that, but I was saying, why are they verbally saying that and not maybe in your mind like what we think? She said, I don't know, but they've done that too. I hear them in my head. That's what she says. So we thought, okay, whatever. Now what do we do? But then we missed opportunities, and they took her. They would take her out through her window to a craft, and then she would go someplace, and then they would bring her back through her window.
Like Linda Corteil type thing.
And she would be in a room. She was in a bubble. She says a bubble. It was a bubble.
A round room.
A round room. And she was on a table in the bubble. And she saw the actual insecticides come in. And they come right up to her. And this is the times that she's hearing them in her head. They're not moving but they're badgering her. They're saying, who is God? Who is this God? I don't like to say that, but what's his name? Where does he live? And things like that she's asking. Because she's praying. When she's abducted, she's praying. I think I said that, didn't I? She is confused. And then in this room, in this bubble, they're doing all these things to her, examining her, and more evasive all the time, more evasive. And then she would lose consciousness and find herself in the bed, or in her bed in her apartment. The other thing I can say is there are some people during this time that were thinking that these extraterrestrials couldn't be in the same environment with a human, and that's why they come in this bubble. They had to keep her alive. They had to have oxygen and whatever. But when they went out, they were in their own environment. I don't know if I know somebody, one of the DIA guys, talked about that. Apparently, they have other cases that they worked on that I had no knowledge of. So that's why the government went above and beyond to do something to help her, and they did.
To this day.
I don't know. I'm sure I spoke to her in Washington, D.C. in 2022, and she's a different person. I mean, hasn't had any abductions in 30 years or whatever it was.
That's it's terrifying.
Yeah,
it's terrifying. And but to know, like, I mean, it's just so strange. What method was used to thwart them? How did was it guns? Was it sound? Was it like lights? How did they get them out of there? How do they stop it from happening?
I can't go into detail.
Yeah, wouldn't that be really important information for people out there to know in case they wanted to stop it?
It's not guns. It's nothing like that. It's technology.
It's a frequency?
It's just technology.
Interesting.
I don't know. I'm not the scientist.
You don't know the method?
I know how to use it, but I don't know what's behind it.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. All right. We'll move from that, but we'll put a pin in that for whenever she decides to come forward. Maybe we'll have you back and talk about it.
Well, I have her back too.
Maybe have both of you in the diner.
When is she? Yeah, that would be great. Once she talks, man, she's going to be wanted by everybody.
Of course. Of course.
But I probably have an inside with her. I mean, all I did for her, all we did, and not just me, but OSI did for her.
Yeah.
Not just OSI, but the entire realm of the government. I mean, she had NSA and everybody working to thwart this.
It's really alarming. Because you know what's hard, Rick, in this topic for me is, and I'm sure you've come across this as well, you have to walk a line where one side of you says, okay, either this person is telling me the objective truth of extraterrestrial visitation, of whether it's mutilation or whether it's just experimentation, whatever that is, or I am actively indulging in someone's potential psychosis. And that's the line that I always find very difficult, because on one hand, I want to be the person who people can trust to come to and say these things, and who feel safe and secure in saying them. But on the other side, if this is all invented, then I'm actually not doing the right thing. I'm gaslighting, and I'm making this worse somehow, by allowing them to sort of perpetuate this potential, psychotic episode. And so, something like that, I'm sure affected you in that same way, where there's a lot of times where I'm sure you couldn't tell if it was real or not. Even today, I'm sure, with people telling you stories. How do you discern, right? But then that gave you some objective truth. Did that change how you felt about previous abduction cases?
Absolutely. And she was one of the truly convincing cases. We had others that were not convincing.
Right.
You could. One of the things that was developed, I have to be careful, is the way to evaluate. There's something, a widget, I'll call it a widget, that you telling me you're abducted, I'll bring that widget in. And that widget will tell me whether you're telling me the truth. It's not a lie detector or anything like that. It's something else that you just have to. It's too scientific for me.
Of human origin?
Well, I'm not going to say.
Well, because I watched the movie Disclosure Day. Have you seen this movie?
Yes.
So in there's a widget. Is that not unlike the widget you're referring to?
I'm not going to say.
Okay, but because I found it very strange in that movie that was brought in. Because I'm like, you don't really hear about things like that at all. Everything else in the movie seemed to track, whether it's a psychic overlay or the sort of lingering psychic abilities that someone has after having an experience, screen memories, childhood abductions. There's so many things in that movie that really track and cut deep for people who follow experiencers. But that one thing stood out to me. I was like, what the heck's this?
Maybe he got some inside information.
Do you think that's the case?
I think he did. Yeah, I think. Yeah, I'm
100%.
100%. There's some things in there that he got.
He was briefed on.
He was briefed on.
He was ready.
Absolutely.
In that specific movie? Okay, well, is the widget one of them?
I'm not going to say, but there are. Yeah, I'll say the widget is true. They can't do anything to it. But there's a lot. I heard from a very reliable source that 18 minutes was cut out of that film because the government says you can't possibly show that. Now I don't know if it's 18. Some says 6 minutes and some says 18. There's some sections cut out because if you I watch it twice because there's reasons why I watch it twice, and I analyze. They jump. You can almost tell where it's cut.
Where they cut the thing?
Excuse me. Yeah, because I've never edited anything, but I've been on movie sets and I know what was filmed and then what was cut later and what scene was, So yeah, I'm positive. Now, Spielberg will say it's censors or something, but censors don't care about UFOs. I mean, if it's sex or something, perverted, maybe you don't cut it, but censors, nah.
Yeah, and what I found interesting too was that normally movies depicting some type of government faction or department will have to acknowledge them in the credits. They didn't. I thought that was really interesting because even a movie like Elio, which talks about there's Space Force in there, and we are very grateful for Space Force and the Air Force and the Department of Defense and yada yada. So what's the reason why they wouldn't?
Because it's so real that they don't. I don't know.
They don't want to touch it. What part of the movie do you think was cut out? Where do you feel that was cut out?
The ending was.
Oh, so the ending.
She was supposed to. This is what I was told.
Yeah, sure. What source told you this?
Somebody in the company.
At Universal, somebody.
No, on Altrin.
His company.
Yeah, his company.
Spielberg's company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody said there was more to the ending than was, so that maybe that's what was cut out. She was supposed to say more, and she was supposed to go into. She was supposed to say it, and then the alien voices. The click.
Yeah.
At the end, and they didn't do that.
Wow. Because I think like many people felt the shortcoming of that ending. Like it was just so abrupt and strange that they would end it there. I was like, what? I stayed for the end credits. There's got to be more here.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, but yeah, I think the ending, and then there's when he first got into the alien head thing to try to talk, they cut some of that out. I think at the beginning they also cut it out, some things out.
And you're saying they cut it not for time or anything, but for...
I'm saying.
Oh, I see.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying others have told me.
You think...
I wasn't there, but others have told me. I mean, it's on the internet. I mean, you look, people, they'll say they cut it out for this, they cut it out. I don't know.
Yeah.
But my friend who works there said, they did cut out some. And they always cut out film, but...
Yeah, I was scanning all the sort of images that the news station was playing simultaneously. I was like, maybe there's something in here that they, you know, soft disclosure that they left in.
Well, as I understand, there's a few people out there, and I'm actually going to go visit one next week, who saw a longer version.
Oh.
And he surprisingly told me this. He said, "Oh, they cut a lot out of that." I said, "Yeah, that's a rumor." He goes, "Oh, I'm not telling you rumor. I saw the longer version." I said, "You saw a longer version?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "I got to come out and see you."
Where did he see it?
At a special showing. He works for the government.
Really? Was this showing in California?
Yeah.
Palm Springs area?
You know?
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
You know?
I know they had a screening there.
Yep.
And I know there was some private jets landing.
Mm-hmm. 2 DARPA guys.
Okay.
At least 2 DARPA guys. An Air Force colonel.
Because it happened during contact in the desert.
Oh.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So that, okay. I'm going to have to talk to somebody.
Yeah. I'm going to too next week.
That's interesting. Okay. I want to talk about something a little more trippy, since we've gotten into some really trippy things.
Sure.
Now, you know, there's so much I'd love to talk to you about, including, you know, Serpo, including more about Project Aquarius, and I mean, Dulce Base, like all this stuff is very fascinating. But one thing that I came across that I thought was really interesting is I had, I think, a mutual friend on here, John Stewart.
I know, John.
Yeah.
Good friends, John.
Yeah, John's a good guy. I like John.
Yep.
You know, the internet gives him a hard time. Not entirely undeserved. I think you know, John's definitely going to watch this. But I do think John sort of pokes the bear, so to speak. He's got a lot of gumption. He's somebody who, you know, his background is just riddled with someone who kicks in doors and doesn't really, you know, he's boisterous. He's all of these things, which I think, credit to him, gets him into places and into conversations that most don't get into. And so one of these stories is the story of this Carthusian monk in, I think, northern Vermont or something.
Yeah, Vermont, yeah.
And the story is, if the people at home haven't watched this, the story is as follows, that he had someone reach out to this monastery because this monastery was found by remote viewers during, you know, the whole Stargate era, or maybe a little prior or after. But they remote viewed the monastery as housing people who will help them communicate with the being that they had at S4, or at Area 51, Groom Lake, or Papoose. And so they ended up going there. A Carthusian monastery, by the way, is like one of the most sacred. There's only one in the United States. And these people take a vow of silence. Their whole existence is to do nothing but contemplate, like God. They have the right to refuse being called upon by the church. Like, that's how coveted these people are. And because of this, you know, they have a lot of wisdom and a lot of, you know, sort of this higher connection potentially. And they were eventually brought in and flown to this secret undisclosed location to communicate with this being. It is my understanding through conversations with John that you may have also had some small part in this, or an interest, a vested interest in this story. And is that safe to say?
Yes. Yeah. I knew of an operation that was occurring at Groom Lake. I didn't know it was Carthusian monks. Okay. I knew there was a project that they were bringing people in to S2 Annex, which is where we call it the creature containment facility. They had special facilities for these extraterrestrials that we found, or gain. I don't know how we got them, because a lot of them had to have special environments to live, and that these people that they brought in, again, I didn't know at the time in the 80s that they were Carthusian monks, that they were able to communicate with them. Now that's it. That's 1980s. Okay.
Was that a project you were read into?
I was partially read into it, yes, because one of the vans that they weren't flown in to Groom Lake. They were bused, or they had a van. The government used a van
From Nellis? Or?
they flew into Las Vegas, now Harry Reid Airport, and then they would bus them up to Nellis, and they would spend the night at Nellis, and something was going. I don't know what happened at Nellis, and then they would truck them, bus them out, or truck them out there. Well, one of them got in an accident, and at up there, I think just south, near Rachel, anyways. And we knew that they were very important officials. We didn't know who they were. And so, an accident happened, the highway patrol's there investigating it. We had to go up and interface with the highway patrol. So I knew that they were some special. And we actually got another van from Groom Lake to come out to pick them up. And then take them out there. So that's my involvement with this. I knew, and then one of the agents, Harrison was his name, who was actually involved in this counterintelligence operation for S2 Annex, he knew what was going on. And he had to give me limited access because of what I did. And because I came back and I said, okay, how do you want me to, there's certain codes we have to use in reports. How do you want me to code this? And he goes, well, they're going up to S2 Annex, and they're going to be interpreters. I said, okay. Well, not interpreters.
Sure.
In a sense of what we could write down would be interpreters. That's it. Now jump ahead many 30-something, 40 years. The story came out that from another person within John's realm of circles, so to speak, that told him the story that there were two Carthusian monks that had special gifts to be able to communicate with these extraterrestrials. And apparently, again, there's a lot of things we can't put together here. But these two were still alive. They were living at this monastery. And like you said, it's a very closed monastery. It's like they were hermits.
It looks like a bunker.
Exactly. You can't visit the place. We went up, tried to visit the place. It's
Who's
guarded.
we? You and John?
No, me and another guy went up there, and at the bottom of the hill, they have a gift shop, and they have gift shop. They make honey. They make other things, the monks, to live, to sustain. But we tried to get access to. We knew their names, the brother John and brother, but we didn't know anything more about them. And they said, no, they don't have visitors. Once a year, they can have a family member visit them. But these two don't have any family. And they're very old, and they're in, like a hospice up there or something. So we could never get up there. But what we noticed was that there was a Vermont State Trooper that would patrol from the gate where the gift shop was, up the road and down. I thought, that's odd. State troopers patrolling in private. Why's that? Well, we went to this local state police barracks, and they basically said, get out of here. None of your business what we do. So we did. And we did records, freedom of records checks called in Vermont, and all we got back was that somebody pays overtime. It doesn't say who. Somebody pays the troopers overtime because what they're doing is overtime pay.
Yeah, sure.
And that's it. That's all we got. We didn't want to have anything else. No names. I think we got the troopers' names. I think. I'm not sure, but that's it. We couldn't get everybody out there. But this other person who worked at Area 51, his name is Gene, who actually was the director of security at Area 51 back in the 80s, told the story of these two monks, that they were in fact gifted. Now, where they got gifted from, some people surmise that they might have gone to the Vatican, and the Vatican had special powers, or they knew, or whatever. I don't know.
Or maybe just through the vow of silence itself. You know how if you dampen one sense, the other senses might start to increase.
That's a possibility. Anyways, they were the ones that were able to communicate with this particular species of extraterrestrial.
Which species?
I'm not sure. I think the Greys, one of the Greys. And these Greys told us all this information. And that's part of the film that John is talking about.
The alien interview.
The alien interview.
You feel like that film is real?
Oh, yeah, I know it is, because the guy that smuggled it out spoke.
Victor.
No,
the guy who gave it to Victor.
Yeah, gave it to Victor. The Air Force sergeant that smuggled it out. He worked in the audiovisual lab at Groom Lake. He had access to where he could copy that.
Right. Yeah, you would have to. Yeah.
The video or whatever, how they did that. I think it was on that.
And it was during a time they were sort of digitizing everything.
Yeah,
anyways.
digitizing it, right, exactly. And so he was able to smuggle it out, keep it, and eventually give it to Victor. And then the story of Victor.
You don't think that can be passage material?
No. He spoke to us a couple different times, the technician, and he doesn't want his name because he still feels, well, he could still be prosecuted. Unauthorized disclosure classified information. There's no statute of limitations on that.
Yeah, but I mean, you'd have to admit to something else.
I know. But, he emphatically told us that that's what he did.
Huh.
And that's why John knows what the chain of events was.
Sure.
And so...
You're convinced, without a doubt, that is a real alien that we're looking at.
I am, yes.
Any other video online that you would say that is, without a doubt, real, whether UFO or alien?
There's a couple.
Which ones?
I'd have to show. I don't have them right here.
Okay, we'll
but we can
describe
talk
them.
about it. I have some that I'll give to you.
Okay.
I think I'm pretty sure is real.
Okay, not the skinny bob, nothing like that.
I'd have to see it.
Yeah, okay.
Because
all right,
there's
we'll look
two
after.
different ones named Skinny Bob, but yeah.
Okay.
I'd have to. The most famous fake one was the one where you see the military officers holding this doll. It was a doll. It was a joke, actually. Somebody took a picture, and now they're claiming it was an extraterrestrial.
Oh, yes. It was a doll. Yeah.
It has a doll. Anyways, we can.
What about there's this video where it seems like it's a crash site or something, maybe in the 40s. It's sort of sepia, brownish hues, and there looks to be on a stretcher like a tiny body and like military officials. It's very brief. Do you know this one?
No, I don't.
Okay, maybe I'll show that to you afterwards.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, yeah, I don't know where I sit with that. That's a weird one because on one hand, you look at that video and parts of it are, alarming because it, looks like a being that's in distress and being sort of tampered. But the other part of me is like, this kind of looks like a puppet. But again, I don't know what an alien looks like or how it moves, right? So maybe that's the only way I can describe it. But when I see it, kind of doing this here.
Puppet, yeah.
Yeah.